Welcome back to Good Day Big Bear and Find a Home in Big Bear. I'm John Wells.
And I'm Dan Bathurst.
And it is September 9th.
Already.
And we had some very interesting things happen last week on the congressional front, which we'll talk about in just a second. But we've been getting a lot of emails. We brought up, a couple weeks ago, a few months ago, about what are called Zestimates from Zillow. And we had an opportunity last week. We spent an entire day with some fantastic trainers, and one of the gentlemen is Key Assad. You may know about him, and he's probably one of the most well-versed computer, internet, technical guys you'd ever want to meet.
And much more.
And much more. Good morning, Key. I know he watches the show all the time as well. And he got the same question that we've been getting, which why is an estimate or a comparable market analysis or comparative market analysis or whatever that you get from a licensed realtor in your neighborhood, and this is all over the place. This isn't just here in Big Bear. This is all over the place. And the number you get from an appraiser, which is somebody who works for the bank that says, yeah, you can loan this amount of money on that house, and the Zestimates or the estimates from Zillow. Why are they so different? And just a little background, what have you found with your agents and in the market? What kind of numbers are we talking about? Are we off a couple $100?
Oh my gosh, some of them are ridiculous. Some of them are as far as $60,000, $70,000, $80,000.
On what size house?
On just a standard home of maybe 1,500 square foot to 1,800 square feet.
So not a mansion. We're not off.
Not at all.
We're not off a couple thousand on $1 million home.
When we pencil out at 305 and then the people go on Zillow and look at their Zestimate and it's 386. It's hard to make that up, you know.
$70,000 on a $300,000.
That is a legitimate case that we're dealing with right now, and we actually lost the opportunity to do the listing because another agent came along and said, "Oh yeah, it's worth every bit of that."
Well, that's what you call buying the listing.
Yeah,
and it's
listed
at anything. Yeah.
I mean, in reality, if you really want to know what your home is worth, I know everybody wants to save a dime and whatever the case may be, but if you're sitting on the market at 386 and you're not going to be able to move that house, then you're going to come back at the agent and say what happened, and it's a way of busting you down and saying, well, obviously it's not worth it, and here's where you're at. They've already got the listing. Get yourself an appraisal, pay the $400 and get an appraisal. You're going to spend that in the time wasted on a number that has no value. So that's my opinion on it.
And we'll share with you in just a second some of the answers we got on why those estimates are so far off from a regular. But first, a comparable market analysis, what's called a CMA, which is what most brokers take out to somebody to talk to a listing. How is that derived? How do you come to that?
You come off of that, off of all of the stats that we provide normally through the MLS, and those are tallied up on homes sold. And not
in that neighborhood.
In that neighborhood.
Yes.
So it's very specific. It's within, and those numbers have to be within the last 3 to 5 months to have any value, and that's where probably the biggest problem comes from. But those are all based on your local MLS, and they actually provide that information, and those where those statistics come from.
It's real hard data.
It's hard data. It's today's numbers. It's based on everything that's going on right now. Where Zillow has a completely different, and Trulia, and Redfin, and all of those that are out there that are giving people ideas of what their value is.
One of the inroads we got on a little bit of an insight on why those numbers are so different is, as Dan just mentioned, when we do a CMA, it's 3 months.
Yes.
6 months at the outside, and appraisers do the same thing.
Exactly.
And appraisers take the time individually by hand to make adjustments to that. If this house has a pool and that one doesn't, well, that affects the price.
Exactly.
If this one has, 3,000 feet of deck and that one has 20 feet of deck, that affects the price.
Right.
The size of the land, everything. They make those adjustments.
Well, another thing that affects the price is the fact that a lot of these homes have additions on them that are not recorded additions. They added a room, they added a garage, they had whatever.
And didn't get a permit.
And did not get a permit, and they put those things in. And so now you're in a position where you've got extra square footage that doesn't match, and these are all based on recorded deals, not I added a shed here and this, that, and the other. So that also creates a discrepancy as well.
And the neighborhoods are so, I hate to say this, Big Bear's a relatively small town. What do we got? 32,000 dwelling units and about 6,000 to 10,000 people, full-time residents here, depending on what time of year it is.
Exactly.
And the neighborhoods are very, very different. You take Eagle Point as compared to Irwin Lake.
No two houses in a neighborhood are the same.
Yeah, and they're only a couple of miles apart as the eagle flies.
Right.
Yeah, so what the insight we got on some of this Zillow stuff was they get off of county records, and their algorithms are written to get so many comps. It doesn't have anything to do with time. And they said some of the comps that they're seeing are 4 and 5 years ago.
Exactly.
Are 4 and 5 years ago when the market was considerably different than what it is today.
Yes. And so but there's no explanation for that other than the fact that, you know, when people see things, they actually it's a guideline, folks. It's not etched in stone. When somebody, that's exactly what it is. It might as well say guesstimate instead of estimate, because
Zestimate.
And a zestimate, exactly. I know, but it's a guesstimate in my book.
Yes.
And people believe that stuff is religious, that this is etched in stone, and so they would prefer, obviously we all would like to get more for the homes, that it's not an agent's fault. We want to get you as much money as you can, but the idea is you have to be real at the same time, and in this market today, being real means, you know, use that agent's information over any of those other entities, simply because they are just guessing, and we are using hard numbers and facts. If you want to sell, if you're not interested in selling, you just want everybody to walk to your house and look at it, then that's another thing altogether. But I do have clients that have been sitting on the market for a very long time, simply because they think if they add a little paint, or if they add a little cleanup, or do a little of this, a little of that,
stuff you need to do,
that's going to bring the house up to that value. That's not the way it works.
Just to stay in the game, you've got to have the house presentable. But and again, with Key and Kevin, and I do want to point out, these were not hard facts from these guys. These were saying this is what they're seeing. So I don't want Key to get a call from Zillow. They're going, what are you talking about? But
Key would probably stand up to him, so it's okay.
Yes, that he would. And one of the things both of these gentlemen said, you know, when we're taking a look at our inventory, which is what we have to sell, which is our listings, what's marketable? You know, because taking a listing that is not marketable, that's not going to sell, is really just...
And a lot of times, I mean, we want the business. I mean, we want your listing. It's very important. So, you know, you end up being soft when the people who really need to hear the truth, right? You get that listing or not, they need to know that these things are not, this is a viable situation. This is, you know, everybody's entitled to their opinion. But when we're actually taking these things directly from the MLS, you know, facts are facts, numbers are numbers. That's the way it works, and that's where you got to go with it.
Which another challenge you run into, because we've talked to some in the past shows about, if you get 4 or 5 agents and brokers that give you pretty much the same number, that's probably the number.
Yes.
That's probably the real number, because they're working local, and which is another point about, you know, we have a statewide MLS, and we have some folks that come up to our market and try to give you an estimate on what they sell the house for based on their experience in San Diego.
Yeah, and that's not going to work.
It'd be like us trying to sell stuff on the beach. We don't know the market. Get a local, get a professional, and listen to them. You don't hire an attorney and then go to court by yourself.
And before you go to Zillow and Trulia and all those for your estimate on your home, I would suggest get 3 or 4 agents to come to you and give you an evaluation of the home. You know, competition is great, everything is good out there, but you're going to get real numbers. And I always tell you, shop around. I mean, we'd love to have your business, but get educated in the market today. And the best way to do that is talk to 3 or 4 agents instead of just getting one person's opinion and then running to Zillow and saying this is it.
And subscribe to our stats.
Yes.
You can do that by going to findahomeInBigBear.com, and we post all the stats there for you. Another item that came up, we alluded to it to start off with, was something going on in the legislature. Now, for quite a few years now, with all the issues going on in the country, there has been some tax forgiveness on short sales and foreclosures. And that basically is, you owe $600,000, you sell the house for $4, that $200,000 gap in there is taxable. It's considered a gain because it's a debt you have been forgiven and by the bank, and so you've been getting tax bills on that, and for quite some time that tax has been forgiven as well. But things changed in California last week.
It was, first of all, you are still being forgiven by the federal Bureau, whatever, to
IRS.
the IRS. Thank you.
For federal, for both short sales and foreclosures.
No, for both.
Right.
But in the state of California, you were only being forgiven for short sales for the last couple of years, and everybody kept procrastinating and saying, go ahead.
That expired last December.
It expired in December, and it was basically due to be re-upped, and we were all told that was going to happen. It was put on suspension back in March, April. So when that was put on suspension, we all kind of were a little skeptical if we were actually going to get that debt forgiveness. Well, a lot of agents went out there and said, this they always prolong, it's not a big deal.
No big
The federal did it, so the state will do it. Well, guess what? They did not. They put it on suspension because CAR, being the biggest lobbyist that there is in Sacramento,
California Association of Realtors.
Yes, for the benefit of the public and what is good and bad. We supported this bill, but then they tacked another bill onto it that we would not endorse. And so in the interim of that, they took away the debt forgiveness. They wouldn't go along with it because we would not support the second bill. So as of now, and so that this is etched in stone, that if you short sold your house this year, you will be paying taxes on the forgiven debt. So that will be something that everybody needs to be aware of out there, and no matter what anybody else tells you, I have it sit.
And if somebody wants to look
right
it up,
here,
it's
telling
AB.
It's SB 30.
Senate Bill, SB 30.
Senate Bill 30.
So you can look up on the legislature site, SB 30, and read the bill for yourself. But if you've had a short sale this year, you're going to get 1099
Exactly.
for the debt forgiveness and you owe California state income tax.
This state is pinching a nickel so hard the Indians riding a buffalo right now. So Jerry decided, and basically so did
Jerry and
everybody
and the kids
Jerry and his kids decided that we would not get that break this year. So sorry to bring you that news, but it is fact. And
be ready.
And be ready for it.
Be ready. Get your accountant online. Again, hire a professional. I don't do my taxes. I don't do teeth.
Yeah.
Get a pro to do what they do. And if you want some of the best, you can contact us right here in Big Bear about real estate at Exit Realty, exitrealtybigbear.com, and you can give us a call at
909-878-0522.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week with more stuff about the real estate market here in Big Bear.
Have a good week and be safe. Thanks, John.